welcome to another FFplus Interview episode. Today, we are hosting Irene Ternes, co-founder and CEO of DataMonkey, which is a German tech company making AI-based data as easily accessible as possible for business experts, data analysts, and IT teams. Irene, welcome.
Thank you.
To start, could you briefly introduce DataMonkey?
Yes, more than happy to do that. DataMonkey is a geospatial data company based in Berlin, in Germany, meaning we work with any kind of data that you can put on a map. Basically, what we do is we use AI and especially also large language models to make geospatial data accessible, also for business experts, so that users can find, retrieve, filter, and combine geospatial data sets via natural language.
From your perspective, what are the most transformative trends that are currently reshaping data analysis and visualization? So particularly within the geospatial domain. And how are these trends influencing decision-making, innovation, and interaction in this field?
I think there's a lot of things going on. Obviously, for data in general, I think especially like the trend of large language models over the last couple of years have had a tremendous impact on how we can make data more easily available, especially for people who are not so much from the data background, but more on the business side. And basically using natural language to sort of translate between data and humans, or making data easily understandable and accessible. And we see that as well in the geospatial world. Looking at map-based data, so to say, that combining data with natural language is a huge part. I think the key part in the end is always how to make things really accessible for the end users, and building solutions that actually fulfill very specific business needs or very specific workflows, and finding this gap from like what is possible on the technical side and what is actually useful in companies and teams to actually bring value there.
So DataMonkey is pioneering the use of GeoAI by combining large language models with geospatial intelligence to make map-based data more accessible. Could you walk us through how AI is integrated into your workflows and solutions? And can you introduce examples of how your clients are using these capabilities to solve real-world problems and making better decisions?
So I would say one thing that is very special about geospatial data compared to maybe other kinds of data is that users very often need to work with both internal data sets but also external data sets. When you think of, let's say, energy providers or energy development companies, they very often need some form of external data, which is, for example, provided by a local government or a regional government, let's say. For example, where in a specific area you're actually allowed to build wind turbines, or where it makes sense to build up solar panels, let's say. So we see that a lot, that teams need to work with some form of external data, which can come from governments, but it can also come from open platforms, let's say OpenStreetMap, or from NGOs, or from any kind of, I would say, trusted organization. And then, of course, you also need some form of internal data to make it useful. And that is something very special about geospatial data, and where we see a lot of potential is making this data retrieval, so finding the right data sets, finding trusted data sets, and also adjusting them by combining them or filtering them to the respective question that the person is trying to answer, makes things a lot easier, especially also for the people who are not so familiar with GIS systems. So GIS is short for Geospatial Information Systems. where we can save either a lot of time for the people or we can reduce the access barriers. And that I think also leads us to like who are we actually working with. Mostly we actually have the touch points through the GIS team, so the geospatial experts, for example, GIS analysts or scientists. But from there, it often takes us at some point to the business department, who actually needs to solve specific questions, to bring the business forward or to fulfill specific workflows. And then it depends a little bit who exactly the end user is and how technical they are. But in the end, the goal is to make their life easier and to use what we call a GeoLLM to make their life easier.
So let's now talk about your experience within the participation in the FFplus sub-project. Could you briefly introduce your use case and what challenges does it address? And especially, what innovative solution have you been developing?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we are focusing very much on basically training an LLM for geospatial data. Kind of like the reason why we do that is that geospatial data has these two components. So on the one hand, it has a language part, and so for example, a street has a name, or a city has a name, or specific objects have names. So that comes like in a natural language, so to say. And on the other hand, it has this numeric component. For example, geo coordinates and other numerical values. That's why an out-of-the-box LLM is typically not very good at answering geospatial questions or also providing the data in a trusted and high quality format. So basically what we do in the FFplus program is training an LLM to sort of make it understand geospatial data. So we work with anonymized user data or like data that has been used on our platform, but also synthetic data to sort of build this translation layer between the numerical values on the geospatial side and the natural language. So that users can basically just type in something on our platform, let's say a data set that they are looking for. It can be something like, show me all solar plants in Berlin, or show me all bike lanes in Amsterdam, let's say. And then the AI is supposed to find the right data set in a trusted data source, filtered for the specific region the user has been searching for, and obviously come up with a reliable quality that the user can also trust.
Yeah, and what key business outcomes do you expect the solution to deliver once the sub-project is completed? So how do you see it's impacting your operations, competitiveness, and market opportunities?
I would say for us, it's two parts. On the one hand, it gives us a pretty unique opportunity to make this AI model better, because in the end, data quality is really essential, obviously for a lot of use cases, but also for geospatial data. Because if users cannot trust the data, then it just makes it useless. So that's the one part. So making the results really reliable and making sure that we deliver trustworthy data sets to the user. That is the one part, which obviously will also allow us to apply the solution to more projects, to more clients, to more use cases. And the other part, I think, is very interesting, that we can, in a later phase, then also layer different data sets on top of that. So having this sort of translation layer between geospatial data and natural language also allows us to layer, let's say, satellite data on top of that, which can be very useful for other use cases, depending on what the client is working on.
Your sub-project has been running for a few months now. So as a sole partner working this case, have you encountered any specific challenges, and how you've been approaching to solving them?
Yeah, exactly. So we are a sole partner. However, we actually get very great support from the local HPC team, and so that's something that we're really grateful for. We have definitely encountered some challenges throughout the program. For example, one thing that we didn't think of in the beginning was that Euro HPC is kind of an enclosed system, so to say. So it doesn't have, for example, internet connectivity. And we realized that not in the beginning, but we learned that, well, at some point we need internet connectivity to actually validate the data. So, we have trained the AI model on the supercomputer, but at some point, obviously, we need to do some evaluation to make sure that the parameters are all correct and give very reliable results. And that is something that we couldn't do without any internet connection in our setup. So we had to find a workaround to make it work. And that is something that, this Euro HPC setup is very, obviously very powerful, but also a bit unique. So I think it's very important to think about those processes and setups in the beginning to make it really work for you. But overall, it's really great opportunity for us.
So let's wrap up this interview with some final thoughts. What advice would you give to the SMEs that haven't been explored the use of HPC and AI in their business?
I would say it makes sense to look into very specific use cases and verify what you actually need. And depending on the use case, you can go from just applying an out-of-the-box AI model or large language model, depending on the use case, or you can maybe need a pre-trained model, or you need actually more of a AI agent system or compound system. So I think it makes sense to very much look into the details of where you're standing today and what you actually need, and where it really makes sense to train your own model. And then to actually apply those resources, which we have in the European Union, to actually create this knowledge, train the model to your very specific needs with the data that you want to use. And then I think it can be very powerful to really make a difference compared to just out-of-the-box solutions.
Yeah. And this brings us to the end of this interview. Irene, thank you very much for your valuable insights, and we wish you all the best and enjoy in your future endeavors. Goodbye.
Thank you so much for having me.